Now I've come out to see a really good mate of mine called Steve, who runs a company called All on Deck. Now, I'm a timber man, I'm a carpenter and joiner, and I've done a lot of decks. I've done a lot of timber decks. I've also done a couple of composite decks as well, and you see those in the channel. However, Steve takes things to another level. He only uses like the very best materials, and you're also using a lot of plastic joists. So I've never used a plastic joist. Obviously I've used like a composite material. So if it's all right with you, can you just give me an overview of exactly what you've got going on and how it all works?
So the current project is a Elements deck, which is a new US brand supplied by Champion Timber. The framework is made from recycled plastic.
Right.
It's a lot more tricky to fit than the conventional brands, and also timbers, because the expansion and contraction and the prep work that goes into the fixing of the frame.
Yeah.
Pre-drilling is essential, countersink essential, and you need at least 2 or 3 times the amount of posts.
Right, okay.
To hold it up.
So what we're essentially looking at then is a 4-inch square plastic post.
Yep.
And a joist, a 5x2 or a 6x2 or something like that.
Yes.
All right, and you treat it like timber. You cut it like timber.
Kind of.
Right.
Kind of. It goes through blades like you wouldn't imagine,
right?
Because you get the odd bit of metal in it.
Okay.
It's a really good product. It just takes a bit of experience to fit. It's not as easy as just whacking together a 6x2 frame. It just takes a lot more prep, a lot more working out how to lay the joists in preparation to be fitted, so they don't bow in the sun and heat.
Okay.
In winter, it's the complete opposite. Okay. Does the opposite. It's just making sure that the joist work is cut and prepped, ready for fitting.
So basically what we need to do differently to timber is the fact that you can fix and forget with timber.
Yep.
It's going to do slightly bigger spans.
Yep.
It's going to cost less money, but it's not going to last anywhere near as long.
No.
So what you're doing here is you're investing in a product which takes a little bit more getting used to.
Yep.
You've got to learn the fact that it's going to react to heat and cold.
Yep.
And you've got to accommodate that and allow for it.
Yes, so you need spaces against the buildings to make sure that the joist can expand and contract. Especially on a roof terrace, if you go right up to the outsides of the parapet, it can expand to the point where it will bow the centre of the roof up.
Or push the parapet.
Or pull the or push the parapet out. So you need to make sure that there's enough spacings, around to allow that to happen.
Yeah.
And also using the correct fixings. You can't just use a wood screw. It has to be a timber lock. So this is your 4x4 standard post. This can be used up to a certain height before it starts getting a little bit questionable whether it can bow.
Right.
So if we go over a certain height, we tend to do some more joints to bolster it.
Okay.
And we also do a double frame usually over a certain height as well. So we have a subframe underneath the main deck frame. This is always bolted to the frames as well, obviously for the expansion.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is a relatively standard product for us now, almost on every single project.
So yeah, this deck looks incredible.
So here we have the 4x4 posts bolted to the 5x2 plastico frame. We use timber locks, 3 to 4 per unit. This one's also bolted down to the concrete pad underneath.
With regards to the fixings, you have to pilot it, you said?
Yes, every single one has to be piloted, because basically if you don't pilot it, it tends to go in and then spin itself back out, so you don't get a good connection. So you have to pre-drill and pilot hole everything. On the ends of the joist, you also have to countersink it. Right. So when you get the fascia on the outside, the fascia sits flush, because it doesn't sink in like a timber joist. So you can't just blast it all the way in. It has to be countersunk.
Okay, so that's something you need to do. So if I was putting that bear around the outside, that sort of ring beam there, I'd pilot that so the screw's only biting into the joist, Yeah. And you counter bore it so the head's gone under, because unlike timber, it might pull itself in. This stuff is not very forgiving.
No, you can't fit Plastro or Plastico or the hand products without pre-drill. It just doesn't work.
Brilliant. Now this decking here, you cannot see a fixing anywhere, which I saw this first when I was out in America with you guys, when we had a look at the factory and how a lot of this material was made. Show me where the fixings are. I cannot see any.
So on this one here, you can see just a small plug there and there. Right. And there and there.
And they're grain matched? They're
grain matched as well, so you have to make sure when you put them in, you line the grain up. Yeah, so from a distance, it's almost invisible.
You've got the plugs, which will line up the grain.
And I noticed that you piloted that, but can you drive them straight through?
You can, yeah, but with the plastic joist, it does lift up sometimes, so it's easier to switch a pilot through a 3mm hole first.
I would say that's great practice. And it's also nice and true, isn't it? You know, you're keeping that pilot bit nice and straight.
Down, yes, the boards sit flush.
And also, if you're going to cut through at an angle, the pellet's not going to sit perfectly flat.
Won't sit properly. Yeah, so you like it nice and flush, you can't see them.
Yeah. And did you find it tedious to start with, or you got used to it now?
You get used to it after a while. You get 3 people going at once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you were a gang of 3 on this job, and you've done a massive amount in a couple of weeks, including the subframe and the decking.
Subframe, decking.
You've built this gazebo that we're in as well. It's and you're all carpenters.
Yep.
Well, I can say we are.
Yeah, we are. You're amazing carpenters. Is there any tips to carpenters out there who are thinking of getting into doing composite decks?
Just do it.
Practice.
Do it.
Practice.
Do it.
Learn from someone that's been doing it for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's lots of tricks of the trade, isn't there?
Yeah.
You got to learn before you go ahead.
Like, we didn't pilot hole them to begin with when we first started, and it just takes a lot longer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you've discovered
you get a firmer fixing.
Yeah.
You get a much better fixing.
Yeah.
It's impressive. You're treating it just like timber, effectively.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't
All
have to
right.
use any special tools.
Okay. And then when you work as a team, you're calling out measurements, someone else is cutting and someone's fixing. Is that what we're doing here?
Yeah.
What have you got left to do?
We've got the picture frame to finish off around the outside, all along there, and we've got to frame the section in front of the door there, break out the step, build a frame and 2 steps over there as well.
Blimey. So you're close to the finish.
Yeah, probably about a week.
Do you enjoy this kind of work?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
Yeah?
Been doing it for quite a few years now.
I've been watching you doing all of your miters and you spend a lot of care over it. Do you actually bond them together as well? Or?
Yeah, use miter mate.
Okay.
With sort of that activator.
Yeah.
But it's try and dry fit them first. Just try and get it to fit.
Yes.
It's tricky when obviously going around certain things that aren't quite square.
Yeah.
Especially like with the framework, try and make it square as you can, but sometimes it doesn't always work out like that.
Well, you're using a wide board as well, so if something is half a degree, it's going to show. So you're better off doing what you're doing, just bisecting that angle every time.
Yeah. Just try and fit it and see how you go.
that's what perfection's all about.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing as well, your deck boards, you've got to keep pulling them straight because naturally in this heat they're going to be not dead straight.
Yeah.
So you've got to bear that in mind as well.
So you've got to obviously, get it to where you want it to be, potentially just temporary screw it.
Yeah.
And then see if that works. If it doesn't work, tweak it again.
Yeah.
Sometimes it goes in first time, sometimes it takes more times than that.
And I like your technique of having a section with a mitre on it to check, to use to measure, to use to space.
Yeah.
You can't beat that. Instead of just measuring from one side to the other, especially when you're talking about material which is fairly expensive, you don't get too many second chances, do you?
No, that's it. It's always better to cut it bigger first time, then you can trim it down.
And when you're setting out a job like this, because you've got the fascia which is running all the way around, you know you're going to use a lot of small pieces.
Yeah.
Do you bear that in mind when you're cutting the long lengths?
So basically, we'll start on the longest section like we started there behind you.
Yeah.
Run it all down from a string line to make it the first line straight as you can.
Yeah. Oh, because that runs all the way through to the back there. Yeah. Gotcha.
Once that's in, and you've done a huge section of the deck, you've got quite a big collection of offcuts.
Yes.
We know we're going to do the fascia vertically.
Yes.
So all those offcuts were used. So we boarded that first section from here to that furniture.
Yeah.
From behind you, all these offcuts here, did all that fascia. So there's like very minimal waste.
Yeah, which is good, isn't it? I think that's the secret to this, isn't it? Is keeping that in mind, but that comes with experience too. All right, I'll let you get on and get that last bit of mitering done. You've got a couple of offcuts here with miters on, and you're using them to set out, are you?
Yeah, because it's easier to get the position because there's a 3mm gap between
I got you.
that and that. It's easier to get an offcut in the right place and then measure where it's actually going to be.
100%. It's a really good tip, that, in fact, the fact that by actually placing a piece, getting it in line, you can now measure from point to point perfectly, can't you?
Yeah, exactly.
Transfer that onto the other one. Otherwise, it could easily be in the wrong position. Yeah, it's a nice little tip. So you're going to go off and get that one cut between you, get it fixed, and then you're getting round the other side like that. Brilliant. Terry.
Good afternoon.
How you doing? All
I'm
right.
good, thank you, Robin.
So you're supplying a lot of this gear.
We are, yes.
Yeah. It's amazing to think that, you know, even a traditional timber merchant sees the value in stocking these modern alternatives to timber.
I think timber's apart from being an environmental product in its own right, it's moving on itself in a number of areas. So composite products, we do a lot of thermally heated, thermally treated timbers now, finger jointed sections, etc. So timber as a building product is moving on in a huge number of areas. Composite is the way forward. Recycled, reused plastics, final end use, etc. is all good story for the industry.
Yeah, and I know that you and Stephen have been trading for quite a while, and you've taken the view that you're only going to stock a product which is more reliable than many others that you can find, because a lot of this is price driven. People search for a product and all they understand is price and what it looks like. Tell us what you think is the most important thing carpenters, homeowners need to know about composite products.
In short, the old adage about you get what you pay for. Composite is quite a varied product. If you go for a cheap brand, a hollow brand, you get more movement, you get more damage. It's a softer product. It's not as easy to work with. It's not as easy to fix. The guarantees aren't there. So we as a business will tend to only keep the premium brands because of the quality issues that you get with the lower brands.
Okay, and with regards to volumes of this compared to timber, what does that look like nowadays?
If you lump composite as a unit,
yeah,
it's about 40% of our sale overall of decking.
Wow!
So it's grown considerably over the last 5, 6, 7 years.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I didn't expect that. I thought you might say 10% or something like that.
There are a lot more questions being asked about hardwood credentials,
right?
Environmental credentials, etc. So yeah, where people are not happy with hardwood as a product, composite's a good option.
Okay, and talk a little bit about the plastic joist.
Recycled plastic bottles. There is an element of recycled metal in there as well on occasion, so you do have to watch what you're doing when you're cutting it and trimming it. It has its own inert problems. It does move a bit. It does get affected by temperature.
Yeah.
But put it in the ground. Once it's fixed properly, you leave it. There's no rot or decay or anything. So again, there are some cheap brands about on the composite, on the joists. Just get what you pay for.
Yeah. Brilliant. All right, so it's good to have seen you out here. I'm glad you've popped out as well.
It's good to be on site.
It's good timing. Yeah, it's good to see where your products get used, isn't it?
It is.
Actually, in real life, because you've got an amazing group of stores and timber merchants, and anyone who follows me knows that I like to go and have a look around these places. So yeah, nice one. And then anyone get down to your local champion and have a look at the stocks of composite and timber, especially your new Morden showroom's got it all in, hasn't it?
We have everything.
Yeah. All right, nice one. Tell you what, mate, it's so impressive seeing all of the work and seeing how you go about doing the decks, especially with the plastic joists. I've been holding off from using anything like that because it's the fear of trying something new, especially on a scale like this. I wouldn't even I wouldn't take on a job like this with plastic joists the first time. I think like your guys have got so much experience now, understanding how the material works, how it moves, what the difficulties are, and how to treat it. It's really impressive. And I also noticed you piloting the boards, and that's something you prefer to do. Yeah,
I mean, technically you don't have to, just in case there's something hidden in there, because you can get little bits of metal and small bits of harder plastics. So it just helps with the whole fitting process. Yeah, adjustment.
Because the head has got like a flat countersink and it tapers back. Yeah. So once it's compressing the surface into the board. Yeah. And of course you can't, that's got no give once it's compressed. Yeah. What are the centres generally?
We always do it at the commercial, spacing, 300 mil.
Right, okay.
Just because on Plas-Pro especially, you can get a bit more movement in the board, and it is just good practice for us because we're doing high-end projects, so you want it as solid as possible so people can put hot tubs on them, they can put heavy barbecues, and then a lot of people can go on the deck at the same time.
Yeah. And that's what you're doing behind us. You've built this lovely gazebo and you're going to put a sort of outdoor kitchen in, are you?
Yeah.
Can you imagine that? Cooking, just looking out towards the countryside. Hey?
Exactly.
How about that? Anyway, mate, I'm going to run.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
No
Thanks
problem.
for showing it to me. I might
You're
even
welcome.
give it a go myself.
No problem.
See you
Thank
later.
you.
Cheers.